Yeah. We get lit, we get fly, we talk stuff, we get high. But to the masses, we're just a podcast called Verified. I am your host. I am Joe Paul. We are the new, the new Verified podcast is we highlight exceptional individuals that are doing tremendous things for the Jewish community. At one point, we only did, amazing hip hop stars from today and yesteryear. But now, in light of October 7th, the need to highlight such amazing Jewish individuals that speak up so proudly and so eloquently for the Jewish community as well as Israel, I need to highlight them on my platform. And you are stellar in what you do because that is your name. So,
That's good.
Stella,
Yep.
welcome to the Verified Podcast. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know you are an extremely busy woman, especially with all the reporting that you do. You've become one of the go-to accounts that I seek to see what you post because one, it gives clarity into the world. You do it in a way that is completely like bipartisan. You don't shift either way. You tell it how it is, and you're real and authentic, and you're not so you're not so bad to look at when you do it. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. What an introduction. I'm like I thought you were gonna say Stella got a groove back, but you used stellar. That was really good. Um,
Listen, you never lost your groove, so it's not like
that's
you
what
can
I
get it
always
back.
say. Actually, that's what I always say. So thank you so much for having me on. And I'm just so blessed to have met you. And after October 7th, it's been tough for our community, but one of the good things that came out of all of this is I've met so many amazing people. Like we've united like never before.
Right. And the synergy of all of us is so in tune with what the common agenda, the constant and common agenda is, which is the release of the hostages, the end to the persecution and the bullshit that we have, dealt with as the Jewish community, and the de-vilification of Israel, which has basically run amok with these anti-Israel protesters, anti-Israel media. It's basically an all-out war, and people don't realize that the opposition is using digital media as a weapon of war.
Oh, 100.
This is not just your regular old propaganda. This is not Dewey defeats
Right.
Truman, in the front page of the paper. This is on such a more sinister level, and I know that you see it firsthand because obviously this is what you do for a living. So it's like, how do you combat all of this misinformation and dissemination of just falsehoods all over the place? It must make you want to. I mean, I don't know if you know, I've torn all my hair out of my head
Yeah,
because of this,
yeah.
but
I mean, listen, it's a lot. It's a lot. Some days are better than others, but the reason I, have gained so many followers is because, first of all, I've been a journalist in mainstream media for over 15 years. I graduated from USC, got my degree in broadcast journalism, worked all over the United States as a journalist. I have been nominated for several Emmys, won an Emmy for my journalism. And
go
so
on with your bad self.
when it's just to set up the scene for you, right? So
Right.
I've been doing this for many, many years. And when October 7th happened, I realized right away that we were fighting a war, on the ground and online, because the misinformation started spreading immediately. You saw the protests that we saw. All of a sudden it was Israel is occupying this land, and it was like, holy cow, we have just been, punched in the gut. Like our people have been massacred. Hundreds more were stolen. We were starting to get these images, and we were seeing these images. I was, on Telegram, like going, holy cow, what is happening? So I took my messaging online right away. Social media, I also believe, is to blame for the Jew hatred that we're seeing, because they censored a lot of our stuff. A lot of the videos that the Jewish influencers or just pro-Israel supporters were posting was getting taken down. So it's like our message was not heard, because what you see, the destruction in Gaza, those images have not been taken down. But our people who were massacred as they woke up in the morning, babies in their pajamas, animals, dogs killed, houses set on fire, Nova Music Festival party goers who were, just massacred. while they were hiding with the toilets. What do you call them?
The latrines or the porta potties.
Right. You saw those images where they were going one by one and just like, but
They,
like
they were
these are
they were hiding in holes in trees
in
in order
trees.
to
And
escape.
by the way, as we speak, it's been 300 days since the hostages have been held in tunnels or God knows where in Gaza, and so, and there's still images that the world has not seen. So when, October 7th happened, I knew I had to do something. So I've been fighting the mainstream media bias that's been happening in their reporting and the things that they say and the information that they trust coming out of the Gaza Ministry of Health, who we know is run by Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Mainstream
Yeah,
media won't even.
I'm gonna go out on a
Right.
limb and I'm gonna say that they can't be trusted with the
They can't
information that
be.
they
Well,
disseminate.
we already
Oh,
know that, and it's like, and it's infuriating when we have an incident where there's a bombing of a hospital, right? Remember, and 500 people were killed
Al Shifa.
immediately. Yeah, immediately 500 people were killed. And I saw, mainstream media go with it, like Israel has killed and Hamas people there, set up like all these dead fake bodies you saw. Like, these are images that are out there that like our mainstream media doesn't actually show. Anyway, and the mainstream media went with it, and then what happened was it was fake. It was a Hamas rocket that misfired that hit a parking lot. You know what I'm saying?
It's
And
like we
so
spend most of our time like putting out these fake fires instead of fighting the real one. It's like
that's the problem,
it's like we're
is we're
sitting here
playing
like
defense.
right, whack-a-mole on everything, whether it's who's the new one, Oliver today, your favorite person, Candace Owens, and
Right.
we'll get in. Wait, you know what, let's just jump right into that. So why is Candace, why that whole thing happen with you guys anyway? Because I mean, I obviously I followed it, because one, I care
So
about you
it
and I saw
wasn't
that it was
anything.
an attack. But
Right. So it wasn't anything bad. She was invited to speak at a Bitcoin event, a speaker. We know she's a known Jew hater, even though she says she's not a Jew hater, even though all she does is obsess over Jews lately and spew all these disgusting lies, although she says she doesn't. So don't believe your ears or don't believe your eyes. Anyway, so she was invited to this event, and people were upset about it. I mean, so I was able through sources to find out information that said that, there was so much shock about the entire thing that the Trump team was, basically, associating themselves with her. And she was pulled from the Bitcoin event. And all the information that I put on my Instagram and Twitter was verified information. And then she attacked me. She attacked me for saying that I'm making up lies and blah blah blah. And then she said that I was
that's really rich.
I made up a story and tried to sell it to CNN. And I'm like, girl, I don't work for CNN and I don't sell myself to the devil. Like, that's not me. That's all you. I don't know. Lately, she's just been really, really obsessed with Jews. And it's like, girl, get creative, because your stuff is boring. Your shit's
I,
boring. Like, just stop.
I feel like the only Jew that she likes is Ami Kozak, and he's
Right,
he's
right.
he's great. I mean, I fucking love him. If you ever heard any of his impressions, he's like spot on when he does his like Douglas Murray or when he does his
Right.
Trump.
No,
But
I've
it's
seen
like
it.
right, and so Ami's trying to like educate her, and like you could see. I mean, I can tell because I've been, just like yourself, I've been doing this for, like 20 some odd years.
Right.
So it's like I could see the frustration in him that he wants to like lash out and he wants to be like, no, Candace, that is not how it is. That's not how it works. That's not how you define anti-Semitism, when the word actually evolves with the times because people get more and more creative of how to shit on Jews because they think that that's what they're supposed to do. So,
Right. And
so
but Jews have been put in a very uncomfortable situation. It's like when we defend ourselves and say, no, this is anti-Semitic, this is Jew hatred, then we're told like, oh, you can't say anything about Jews. Oh, you can't say anything about the Israeli government. Go ahead, say whatever the hell you want about the Israeli government, but you can't tell me what I take as, anti-Semitic, what anti-Semitism is.
yeah, it's like, how are you going to tell me what offends me? It's like, do you know
Right,
what's
but
going on?
it's just we're put in this uncomfortable situation when we start correcting these people, when we start saying, no, guys, that is, that's blood libel. Like, that's, these are things that our ancestors experienced years and years ago. That literally is blood libel. We're told that you can't say anything about the Jews. Jews control everything. Jews control the media. Well, if Jews control the media, then the media wouldn't be so biased against the Jews. Have you ever thought about that?
Right. I keep telling, if Jews ran the world and they really controlled the media, there's no way that 75% of the Jewish people online aren't fucking banging their heads against their wall every single night with all the fucking hate and shit that is everywhere. Like, it's literally like comment after comment after comment. I've been called, the N word, and I'm not talking about what the derogatory term for African Americans. I'm talking about what happened in
Right. I've been called
Germany.
that
Like,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
more times than my teachers have ever used it in
Israel,
school.
right? They say
Right.
Israel, right? And they call it
Israel, shit real.
shit
Let's go
real.
back and
Like
forth. Let's see.
it's
Let's
like
see how many we could do.
I have him in my inbox. I hope you die, you cunt. Excuse my language. You're gonna have to beep that out. But like,
No, no, no
oh,
way. Listen. I used to be a
this,
hip hop podcast. We can fucking say
so
everything, every curse under the sun. I mean, I know, we're supposed to be like, good Jewish boys and girls and speak properly and
right,
fuck that. So go ahead.
right. But listen, it's like we all have our, different experiences. The one thing that gets to me is like, go back to Europe. And it's like, well, where am I supposed to go back to? I came from Uzbekistan. My grandparents were refugees from Ukraine. We all came from the land of Israel. So where do you want me to go back to? Like,
Right.
where?
I love when people say like go back to Poland or Russia. Like,
Right.
I said to people, we did a small stint in Poland and Russia because we weren't allowed to leave.
Right.
There were these things like in the 1800s called the May laws, which basically prohibited our movement, and we had to be contained in what's called the Pale of Settlement, where we couldn't migrate to other lands, we couldn't obtain citizenship, had a forced conscription into the army unless we were able to pay people. We were not considered human beings, and if we went outside the territory of the Pale of Settlement, you were thrown in jail. So
Right.
we didn't come from Poland and Russia. We were the pinball that basically just got stuck up in the northern half of Europe until they actually allowed us to leave, and majority of them migrated to either America, or you start seeing the first influx of Jews into the land of Palestine, around the 1880s, and that's why you have like the first Aliyah, as of 1881. So you started seeing a presence of Jews, into the land, or fleeing to the land. I don't want to say migrating, because it's like when you have no other place to go and you're at risk
But
of
they were always
death.
there. Like
Right.
archaeologically, you can dig Jews up in that land. And that's what gets me, is that this generation does not even want to learn about history. They don't even want to have conversations. Like, I went to UCLA and I was shooting a video there. And basically behind me, it was a video. There was a sign that says, "Do you believe Jewish women were raped on October 7th or whatever?" So the sign was there. You could see what it was. And these two journalism students came up to me and they're like, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, you know what, can I," and I saw their press badges, and I said, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, "Do you believe in women's rights?" And like, "Yeah, obviously." And then I'm like, "Do you believe a woman when she says she's raped?" And then they're like, yeah." And I'm like, "Do you believe Jewish women when they say they were raped on October 7th?" And they're like, "You know what? We're not allowed to answer these questions. We gotta go." And I'm like, wait, why can't you answer that question? Like, you're a journalist. What, you can't speak? Like, I'm a journalist. You can speak. And so there's this obvious bias that is already ingrained in these young people who, let's say, are in the universities, who then end up in our local newsrooms. So this is why you see this so much bias in mainstream media, because they're all migrating, you know what I'm saying? And we're dealing with this wokeness.
Are we doomed?
I mean, yeah, it's actually really, really scary. It really is. I want to say no, because there's always hope, right? Like, we can change things around. I hope and pray for what I was taught in school. Like, you report the facts and let people decide. It's just when I watch the mainstream media news, it's like the other day, CBS did a story on who was it? It was the Hezbollah leader who was killed, and they said that when they took him out, Israel took him out in Beirut, this is the word for word in the report, 2 children were killed. And then the reporter went on to say, Israel is blaming him for killing 12 young people, okay? Like as if they weren't children as well. Okay, it's in the little details. You gotta follow it. And then on top of that, they just completely left out the fact that the US had a $5 million bounty on this guy and he's a full-on terrorist.
Right, that he killed something like 240 Marines and in a bombing, and it's
Americans.
been right.
Yeah, 1983. Like, we're just gonna leave that out. So, and that's the problem is, if you're watching the news, people don't, they don't have the time, right? Like, if I trust you, if I trust CBS, if I trust ABC, and I'm watching your report, like, I trust that you're gonna give me all of the information, and that's not happening. And so I tell people, like, you got to do your own research. I know, but like, life takes over. Like, if you have kids and you're busy, or if you're just a student and all that stuff, and it's like, you don't have the time to consume everything. And if TikTok is consuming your brain, you're definitely not getting all the information.
It is a scary place where you take. I say it's like we're a society that basically just takes the headline and makes up the story in their head. So whatever
Well,
whatever
yeah.
they read on the headline, they'll fabricate whatever they look according to whatever picture that they display,
I
similar
know
to
what you're
what
talking about.
The Washington Post, like I don't understand how that's allowed, other than somebody in the head programming room like this, like, oh, a lot of people are going to be talking about this one. Yeah, we
Like,
should do that, and then
you
we'll
have
offer a
executive
retraction.
producers and editors who have to approve this stuff. It's like, why is that okay? And for people who don't know exactly what you're talking about, it was the Washington Post, right?
Mhm.
They posted an image of the Druze families in Israel who were mourning their babies who were just massacred. And then the headline said, what did it say? Something about Lebanon?
It said Israel strike from Lebanon,
Yeah,
or
Israel.
uh,
So if you didn't know what was happening, you would think that these are Lebanese
right,
families who are
and
mourning their children.
Israel just indiscriminately killed more children, just added to the what's the body
Well,
count out now, like
right.
187,000 all children.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
It
like, when this attack happened in the Druze community on July 27th, I was like, oh, I'm just, because the media didn't jump on that story right away. And then I literally said on my social media, I said, okay, this is your warning, mainstream media. Let's see what happens when Israel does attack. How are you going to handle this story? And I was right. I was right. The bias, they're so biased.
I mean, we have to see, me and you as journalists, as well as, I mean, I hate to use the word influencers, but because we have a platform and a presence, it's almost like we have to we have to foresee what kind of bullshit we're going to deal with from the opposition, and we have to have something prepared, ready to go. That's
Right.
why I had my video for the Druze community, because I have a certain love for the Druze. I mean, I'm good friends with Mansour Ashkar, who's
Yeah.
a strong,
He's
powerful
amazing.
voice for the Druze
Yeah.
community, with Marwan Jabbar, who's a young Druze activist that is so passionate the way he speaks. So it's like I was trying to think to myself, how are they going to spin this? And they're going to be like, okay, the outrage of these Israeli Druze children, but what about all the children that have died in Gaza? And I was like, I need to make a video about this
Yeah.
immediately, because I know that they're going to say that, and I need to like nip that in the butt right away, because this is not a military target. You can't even say that these Israeli Druze children would have had a mandatory conscription into the IDF, because we know that, in the apartheid state of Israel, the Arabs, who live within Israel proper, do not have to actually serve in the IDF. I don't know if people really realize
I
that
don't think,
when it comes.
no, I don't think but that's the thing, is all these people have an opinion about a place they know nothing about.
Nothing
They know
about
nothing about. People didn't even know who the Druze are.
who the Druze even were.
They're Arab Israelis, and you're like, oh, there's Arabs who live in Israel. Oh yeah, you thought there was an apartheid state. That's the thing that gets me. Is like, there's so many opinions, and people have no idea what they're talking about. I recently went to an event where an Iranian man who ended up moving to America, a Muslim, talked about his childhood in Iran, and how, when he was going to school, that, they always said death to Israel, death to America. And he was always taught, he said, one of the things that we were always told is Israel kills babies. He's like, I don't know, they always just said Israel kills babies. So he grew up with that knowledge, right? And, he's in America. He ends up making Israeli friends and all that stuff. And he says, oh, I want to go to Israel. I want to visit Israel. He goes to Israel and he is walking and he hears the call from a mosque, right? The daily calls. And he's like, what? He just had this like epiphany, like, holy cow, I'm in Israel. Like, do Jews go to temples in these Arab countries and get, you know what I mean? And are treated equally. And he's like, that's when I was like, people don't know how amazing Israel is. It's literally the only democracy in the Middle East that has all different cultures there. And like back to Candace Owens when she talks about what did she say about Jerusalem, where she said, oh, the Muslim quarter. It's like, have you been there? Do you know what the Muslim quarter is? Like, it's like, do you even know?
I don't think she realizes that
like, do you know how stupid you sound?
Yeah, if Jews pray at Alaska Mosque, like they will be thrown in jail.
Right.
Like there are parts of Jerusalem that if Jews go, they will be killed. And they could argue if there's if there's places that Palestinians go in the Jewish place, they might get arrested, but like they'll be murdered if they go into the Jews will be murdered if they go anywhere within area within
I don't think people
C.
realize that, right? Like I stayed in Judea and Samaria, okay, and
I'm sorry, A and B. I'm sorry, not areas. Sorry,
right,
apologies.
right. They're zones, right? But I stayed in Judea and Samaria, and I was like, what are these signs? And there's literally no go signs. Like, go at your own risk. You might get killed.
That's a scary thought. And people wonder why the two-state solution will never work. You can't. I mean, not to shit on the society, but it's like when you have a society that's been indoctrinated to really hate you and want you dead and want to eradicate you, and the only goal is to actually reclaim the stolen land, which we can get into that also if we have time. But it's like, how do you without some sort of de-radicalization, without some sort of like heavy lifting combined from a lot of different sources, they're not going to respect it if Israel does it. No. So there needs to be a an independent third party that comes in there. The UN cannot be like the UN cannot be trusted. UNRWA cannot be trusted.
But they don't want a state. They don't want, like, the fact that America keeps talking about a two-state solution. Shout out to Zach Sage, who went into
love that fucking dude.
And he literally did an interview with people who are like, what? Like, first of all, yeah, we support Hamas. No, we don't want a two-state solution. We want it all. We want a one state. Like, that shouldn't even be a conversation. There is never going to be a two-state solution. Like, basically giving up Gaza in 2005, in my eyes, was the two-state solution. And look what happened. Like, that was an experiment and they don't want it. So why are we talking about it? But, so, for a while, before October 7th, I was like, you know what?
Because it sounds humane to people in the West that have Western values and Western philosophies. A two-state solution sounds
sounds good.
Sounds good. It sounds like peace, but not when you have one party that wants to eradicate the other by a deep-seated ideology that started more than 100 years ago.
It started 100%. Listen, I'm from Uzbekistan. My mom told me stories growing up. I was 7 when I left, but my mom told me stories from, although they treated us well, there was a lot of anti-Semitism still. The things that she would say growing up, and that that like Jews drink the blood of whatever. Like she would tell me
christened babies.
Yeah, like it was crazy. Like she would say, like if
But on a side note, I just got a bottle that was sent to me by from the old country of the perfect christened baby's blood. It tastes
crazy,
beautiful,
right? But like it's just nuts.
I can't believe I even said that as like a joke. I'm sorry.
If the vegetables or whatever weren't ripe that year, it was the Jews' fault. You know what I'm saying? They would blame us. But my uncle, and I don't know if you saw this, my uncle. So I come from a really big family. On my mom's side, my grandmother had 10 kids, 7 boys, 3 girls. A lot of my uncles were in Greco-Roman wrestling. One of my uncles moved to Israel. He lived there. He was part of the Olympic team in 1993, the wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling. He went to Barcelona. Anyway, and so him and I had a conversation about this whole, Israel-Hamas war. And he said, Stella, the ideology is it's so deep rooted. He said, put it this way. Here's Gaza, here's Israel. You're a child growing up in Gaza and you're told, you see that land over there? All of that?
That's yours.
That's yours. That's all yours. And you know what? We got to fight for it. So you grow up thinking that these people are horrible. They took your land. That is all yours. So it starts from such a young age. I have little kids. I know, the things that they hear and whatever, and I have to stop them and be like, no, baby, we can't say that. That's not nice. There's people that come in all shapes and sizes and forms. You can't say that. You got to correct children. But when you're constantly beating that in the head that Jews are evil, this is all yours. That's why the 7-year-old grows up to be, a Hamas militant.
I mean, males in Gaza start training at the age of 5 with military weapons and training, as well as in schools. It's like complete indoctrination. It's not even like a school system. It's basically all the subjects are taught to hate Jews. So it's right. Okay, so the first Intifada in 1987 killed 1,500 Jews, and then the second Intifada from 2000 to 2005 killed another 1,500. How many Jews were they killed in total? And then how many Jews should be killed in the third Intifada? It's literally insane.
It's insane, and that's why on October 7th, we heard audio of Hamas militants saying, Mom, I just killed 10 Jews with my own hand. And they're like, yes. Think about it, it's generational. Like, you have a parent being like, yes, and the son on the phone, think like what mother would be okay with you killing 10 human beings? That, I mean, you have to
it's unthinkable.
And the atrocities that they committed on people, on women, they cut off their breasts, they shoved knives in women's vagina. Like, this is real stuff. That is deep-rooted hate. Like, you have to really hate somebody. You didn't just shoot them, you mutilated them. And then you weren't even, and after you did all that, you burned them.
Right, you mutilated their dead bodies. Like, I mean, and they fucked dead bodies. They literally raped dead corpses. Like, this is how the fuck are we supposed to have a peace? Yeah, they deserve a two-state solution as a reward for that.
No, and then this is what I was going to tell you before. I used to think, there was a period of time where, I was like, what, maybe a two-state solution, let's just do for me, that's out of the question. I am definitely not for a two-state solution. I am not. I don't care if people don't like me for saying that. That is one thing where I really believe.
Listen, we're Jews. They're not going to like us anyway. Fuck it.
Right. Well, I mean, other Jews, we're also divided within our own community.
Other Jews are not going to like us anyway. Fuck them too.
And it's really sad. Like, I've experienced it because, listen, I grew up in LA. I was, liberal my entire life, blah, blah, blah. I have kids. I look at things a little bit different. October 7th happens. I'm like, I think this president is actually better than this president for my people. And now I'm like, people attack me, call me a cult leader. It's insane. And it's like, like, we live in a democracy. Like, other influencers are allowed to go ahead and take pictures at the White House with Biden, and they're okay. And you judge me for saying, I think this person and his actions, Trump, are better for our people. Like, where is the democracy in that? It's just, I don't know, coming from former Soviet Union and living in a democracy, like, I don't understand it. I'm sorry. I don't get it, especially my own people.
Yeah. And if people could be on the street protesting and screaming about what they think about Israel and Israel's government, we can sure as hell talk about what we think about our government. I mean, that's the whole purpose of free press and the First Amendment.
But it's the cancel culture. It's the cancel culture that I'm just like, really? Are we canceling each? Like, literally, I was looking on Instagram. Actually, my followers were sending it to me. They were like, there were accounts who were like, yeah, she's propaganda. Like, all this, like, I was okay for like 7 months because all I talked about was Israel, mainstream media. And then I was like, okay, we're in election season. This is what's happening. And it's on top of people's minds, right? Like, I'm a journalist. And all of a sudden I bring up these things and now she's a propaganda. And it's like, that's what I don't like. Like, why are you vilifying me? Because we live in a democracy. We live in a democracy. Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, until Sharia law takes over, which is, looks like
that's literally what I said. Like, we have people who are like, Project 2025 is the worst thing. And I'm like, I don't know. Is Sharia law? Like, I'm worried about Sharia law, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm worried. Like, I have this conversation with a lot of people, and I know that we're on a time constraint. I have to, run also, so we'll wrap up in a little bit. It's like I tell people when it comes to voting, you vote for what you feel is most important to you. What's most important to me might not be most important to you. You might care about your finances more than the safety of your people. You might care about, your health care more than how Israel is basically being, slow played into, getting, arms and aid, so that they can't fight the war that they need to. You might care about abortion rights more than your own personal safety as a Jewish person or not or a non-Jewish
Right.
person within this society. So when you vote, you should vote for what's more important. And right now, my
And
top
that's
priority is Jews safety, Jews safety, Jews safety, Jews safety, and all of that is combined with how we are with Israel and how we
right.
are going to move forward.
I agree with you. And it's like you should be able to do whatever you do, but don't come into my DMs and then call me like a cult leader and all this stuff. And you do you, but if you're not allowed to exist, if your existence is not here on this planet as a Jew, what does anything else matter?
Yeah,
Like that's the way
what
I
vote
look at it.
fucking matters?
Well, like, what does it matter about abortion rights, or what does anything matter if Sharia law takes over? I mean, I don't know. Like, you're not alive, so go ahead and vote for abortion rights.
Right. You won't have the ability to vote or do anything in a Sharia law place. And we can see if we don't act soon, and this is not me just like spitting off like conspiracy theories or like, end of the world like nonsense. They're all gonna get us, they're all gonna kill us. But
Mm-hmm.
we literally see what's going on overseas right now in the UK. And if we don't have a strong leadership that is going to condemn that sort of radical behavior, and
100%.
I don't think that we will see that with Kamala. I just don't.
I
And the
listen,
fact
and
that people
don't you
say
dare
her,
say that, because you're going to get canceled. Don't you dare say that. And that's
listen,
and
I'm from hip hop. I don't give a flying
yeah,
fuck about
I was like,
nothing.
don't you dare speak out. But that's true, right? Because
Oh yeah, nobody cancel Stella. Just cancel me. It's like she like listen
no,
for
don't
my
worry, I've
bombs
been
that I
canceled
throw.
before. I mean, I've been canceled before for who knows what. But you're right. Like, we see what's happening in the UK, and this country is built on Judeo-Christian values. And I've been very disappointed in how the administration has used Islamophobia to fight anti-Semitism. Like, they even brought in, right after October
Right,
7th, they brought
a
in
national strategy.
a national strategy. I reported on it, and they brought in care, and they brought in care, and then the executive, director of care was on camera basically justifying October
October
7th.
7th.
Yeah, and then the Biden White House just scrubbed care off of their website. Nobody talked about it. Like, it just went away. And I was one of the few who did. And so this is where I just like, where it would be nice to have an honest mainstream media so that our Americans could be educated. It's like, not everybody knows who Stella Escubedo is. Not everybody follows me on social media. So not
They
everybody
should.
knows that it should, that these things happen. But that's why I believe in an honest and fair media. And I really do hope that one day we get there. I really do. I always say, to all of the newsroom leaders, I really pushed hard for when this whole thing happened, the Israel-Hamas war, and they were using the statistics from the Gaza Ministry of Health, as we just talked about. And I kept saying in my videos, the Gaza Ministry of Health is run by
Run
Hamas.
by Hamas.
And I was calling the Associated Press out, because the Associated Press is considered a gold standard for news. It's a source, right? And so
All of the yesteryear gold standard, like the sites that I used to love, that I used to always go, and that would be the substantiating factor. Like even back before the Guardian went rogue. Associated Press, Amnesty International. I mean, you know me. I am a like a research fanatic. I'm not reporting on
yes.
anything unless I have substantiation, and because there's no way I want to even deal with backlash. It's like all the information is right there for you. So I'm good. So
No, but you're right. And so, I was really, really like just hammering it. Like, and I think a lot of my followers found out that all of this stuff stems from the Associated Press. And so I was able to accomplish, I believe, in the fact that mainstream media outlets now say the Hamas-run Gaza Ministry of Health. Although recently they just say Palestinian Authority, or Palestinian health officials. All of a sudden now they because here's the thing. if you tell people it's Hamas run, it's a terrorist organization, people start to catch on. Oh, this is a terrorist organization. If you say it enough, it catches on. Well, they're not doing that. So that's where the problem lies, right? And so now they don't even say the Gaza Ministry of Health, because so many of us have called out the Gaza Ministry of Health
Right.
as
Say
being Hamas.
Palestinian health officials.
Now they're Palestinian health officials. And you're like, this is so deceiving. And then what I want to tell people is, if you think that they're only doing this with Israel and Hamas, like, think again. Like, please think again. It's happening in all sorts of subjects politically.
I agree. And that's a great place for us to, wrap up. I mean, I would like to have, we could probably talk for hours and hours,
Yes,
because
we could.
because we have all the good stuff, that we could speak about. But, I so appreciate your voice, your the way that you actually deliver, the news is you have an informative but performative approach that is so genuine that it's like it's hard to really it's hard to talk, it's hard for anyone to talk shit about you, because it's like
Oh, they do.
I mean, me too. I mean, but whatever.
Yeah.
We have thick skin, but the way you do it, is relatively flawless, and I really appreciate what you do, and I know a lot of people appreciate your voice. And if there's anything I could ever do to help amplify, anything that you're doing, please, I am a 100% supporter, and you lead our cult, very, very well. And I'm just kidding about that for all the people out there that think
By the
she's a
way,
cult leader.
no, but like, before we wrap up, I just want to say this. I have a friend, her father is a Holocaust survivor, my friend Siggy Flicker, and her father led the Righteous Gentile Division in Yad Vashem. And we had lunch one day, and he said, they say we control this, we control that. Just say, yeah, we do. And we're not changing anybody's minds. And he's
There
like,
you go.
and this is a smart, brilliant man. Just say, yeah, okay, we do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what?
You guys
And
are
I'm
committed
like,
genocide.
just lean into it.
Yeah,
Just lean into
we
it.
do
They
a little
think we
bit of
control
genocide.
everything anyway. Just lean
Yeah.
into it.
Listen, a little bit of genocide, sprinkle a little
Right?
apartheid, say box it all up in a blockade, and you got Israel. There you go.
Yeah, they think we control it anyway. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to leave you with a quote that I always, sign off with. I like you to attribute it to your life, like I attribute it to mine, and everyone listening. We are all just here for a small cup of coffee. I'm just trying to drink it while it's still hot. This has been your boy. I am Joe Paul. This has been the Verified Podcast, chopping it up with the Stella. Make sure you follow her on Instagram and her social media platforms. And she is not a cult leader. She is actually a voice of reason. So on that note, we love you. Peace and love. Take care.